I love old documentaries about the space race. If you look at some of those old movies from the 1960s where they were trying to land man on the moon, in the background in the computer rooms, you'd often see these big giant tape drives, and the tape drives would whirl around and go forward and back. And what that basically was sequential lookup or sequential storage. Hello, everybody. This is Nick Totero, Professor of Information Technology and Computer Science, Lakeland Community College. In those days, they would store data on those tape drives because it was fairly efficient. It was the older technology back then. But if you had to find information on that tape, it would have to go through the entire tape. And what you would see is those tapes going back and forth. If you were fortunate and the data was in the early tape, it'd be quick. If it was at the end of the tape, it would not be so quick. As we investigate lists versus dictionaries in Python, we still have that same thought process. When we're working with lists, as long as we keep our lists fairly short, lists tend to be very sequential. Yes, we could pull information out based upon the index of the item in the list, but lists are very sequential. When we're working with dictionaries, they build a hash table and it's indexed by the key value. So it allows us to very efficiently in Python to find information out in a dictionary. I wrote a series of programs to one program to really show you the efficiency. Let's go up to my screen. All right, this little program just does a comparison on lookups between a list and a dictionary. Let's refresh something here. A list is sequential. So when it has to go find something, when you do a find on a list, it starts from the top and keeps going until it finds it. If it happens to be the last element inside that list, it's going to go through the entire list. A dictionary is index, meaning that if I give it a specific lookup, it's going to do that key lookup and find the value much quicker. This particular program is basically going to take this very large word list file. This file has over 370,000 words in it. And what I'm going to do with this file is, one, I'm going to create both a dictionary and a list in it. So it's going to be a side-by-side comparison, list and dictionary, the same information, except the list is going to be in a sequential, and the dictionary I can use an indexing. So in this little program does nothing but does a head-to-head comparison and gives us some timing. But I also did some other things. I intentionally pulled the last element of the file. So 370,000 elements. I pulled the last one, and I'm going to compare the lookup on that last one in a list and the last one with a dictionary. I can do that very easily because inside a list, I can just say, give me the last element. -1 will give me the last element of a list. I then am going to randomly generate a series of numbers and use those to slice out something from the list. Say, okay, when we know exactly where that element is in a list, that's very efficient. But when we don't know, then it has to start from the very top. And I'm going to look up based upon those random numbers. And I'll show you. All right. Where is the random number? Okay. Down here is the random number. It says, find me a number between 1 and the end of the list. So anywhere in that list, it's going to create a random number. It's going to pull out the list, and then it's going to do a direct search on that list. Having the index is one thing. Here is, it doesn't know. So again, we're comparing a list, sequential, versus a dictionary, which is going to be targeted or indexed. So let's run this and let's see. Now, it's a very large word list file, 370,000 words inside that file. Give it a second. It's doing a search on the very last one, and then it's going to randomly pick numbers throughout there and see what we get. So let's see the very, very last one, Zwitter Ionic. When it did a sequential lookup inside the list, it took 3.618 seconds. When it did an index lookup using a dictionary, it did it in 0.000343 seconds, basically 105 times faster. Now, my computer is slow, so this, these values may change if I was using different computers. Again, it's just a comparison of the two. My computer tends to be very slow. Another, I guess, Dynama, it took 0.026 seconds in a list, and that's an A word. And again, this one took 0.00003. So basically 847 times faster when I did a key value search. And again, these are not official numbers. These aren't like data numbers or anything like that I would do scientific research on. But it does give a clear indication when certain words, a lot of these seem to be very in the beginning. This is paleocrystallic, took 1.681 seconds to find it in a list, but yet it's still fractions of a second. We're into the milliseconds when we're doing inside a dictionary. So you can see in a head-to-head comparison, when you are looking something up and you cannot do the sequence in zero, then you're kind of at a dictionary. This is a very large file. If you're dealing with very small files, it's not going to be that big of a difference. But you can see very large files, and you got to look something up, which is a good function inside a dictionary. Then you use a dictionary. Let's wrap some things up. The question is not, is one better than the other? Do we take the red pill? Or do we take the blue pill? Do we Ginger versus Marianne, Flash Gordon versus Tarzan? It's what are you trying to accomplish? If you're dealing with a small amount of data, then you can easily use a list. If you're using larger data or you want that key value search capability, then obviously use a dictionary. So you determine you determine which one you're going to use by what are your needs, not just kind of flipping a coin here. You saw in this particular video, when you're dealing with large amounts of data, sometimes it may be better, and you're going to be looking up that data. Definitely, if you're going to be looking up that data, then you're probably better off with the dictionary. If it is just sequential data that you're creating some information, maybe some data analytics where you're just using some raw data, in that particular case, you may be using some kind of list. So with that being said, let's go out and learn something.